Pirate's Curse.
More like Shantae and the Cleavage Curse. Oh, I'm sorry, was that an inappropriate sexual joke? Well, I hate to break this to you, but when I first played Shantae and the Pirate's Curse, you know, I couldn't help but notice that it was rated T for teen for sexual themes. And, this game has them. Yep, and when I say Cleavage Curse, I mean Cleavage Curse. There's a lot of boobs in this game, and a lot of, almost naked women, to say the least. I couldn't believe, actually, how much suggestive themes they put into this. And even, like, this mom here on the screen shows cleavage. As a matter of fact, every single girl you talk to in this game will show cleavage and lots of boob. Almost as much boob as possible, actually. So do be prepared for that when you play this game. And be prepared for all of the sexual jokes to stop pouring out as well, because there are a lot of them, especially in the first half of this. For example, stupendous clandestine powers were revealed to me the day I held erect my enchanted blade. That's right, guys. This manly man held erect his enchanted blade. And maybe that one's, you know, a little bit on the light side. But just you wait. It gets much worse than that. In these next pictures that I'm showing, you'll see two women. They're twins, I'm assuming. They're stripping for you. And what possibly could they be stripping for? Well, they wanted to take a swim in the spring water, right? No big deal. But it was dried up. So in order to get them to swim in the spring water, Shantae, who's the main protagonist of the game, had to beat the meat you see on the right there. Not a joke. She had to beat the meat to awaken the monster on top, who, after he is awakened, he pours out from his body down to the spring so they can swim. This is not a joke. This is a masturbation joke in Shantae and the Pirate's Curse, and this is the first area you go to explore. Like I said, when they say sexual themes, they mean sexual themes. And I'm going to grind up now on this old man here for a second, because every time Shantae crouches, she wiggles her butt, just for added pleasure. And every time you go out here on the map, every single girl's boobs will bounce and jiggle for you. So if you're into bouncing, jiggly, pixelated boobs, this game's got you covered. And it's quite sad that they did this much over-sexualized content in the game, and it's intentional. You can tell they were very self-aware of it, and they do pull back a lot towards the second half of the game, but it's really distracting, which is unfortunate because Shantae and the Pirate's Curse is actually a really fun game. I really enjoyed it. It starts with, for example, these hearts. You can go out in the world, and every single area you go to, each island, has a bunch of collectibles, hearts to find, and essentially this dark magic to collect, which you will need towards the end of the game. It's worthwhile. Every single place also has new things to discover, new characters to meet, new challenges that get very creative. It's a lot of fun to play this game. It is a really fun platformer, and it gets bogged down by all the sexualized jokes that they make at first. But once you get past that, the game becomes really invigorating and captivating. I really enjoy the combat, because at the end of each island, you get a different weapon to use, and it helps you not only defeat monsters in a different way and enemies, it also helps you to unlock certain areas that you couldn't before, which extends the playtime a lot and allows you to go back to previous areas and collect those, like hearts, for example, and get to places that you couldn't have. And not only are the areas really fun and well done, the soundtrack is really excellent too. Every single area has its own unique song, and most of them, I'd say about 90% of the songs on here, are just really enjoyable pieces of music that I could listen to outside of the game. Not only that though, the boss fights are also just as unique and entertaining. None of them are overly difficult, but that's okay. This game isn't overly difficult, and it works on so many levels. Each boss has its own unique little weak spot, and there's different approaches, and they have different attacks. None of it feels repetitive. And like I said, the people who made this game are very self-aware. Not only are they self-aware of the jokes they're making in terms of like sexuality, they're also self-aware that this is a game. For example, one of the bosses you fight in the middle of the game, he's this giant squid and he's looking for his purpose in life. And he ends up proclaiming to Shantae that he has found his purpose. And his purpose is to be the best filler boss ever. And he goes into all these details about how he's going to be the best filler boss. And I thought that was absolutely hysterical, because we've all been there when you play a game and you just fight this boss fight and you're like, yeah, you ran out of ideas, didn't you? AKA a filler boss. So they are very self-aware, and it's very clever writing. Like, the dialogue in this game is really good, all sexual jokes aside, and I absolutely love the characters. Each one had their own quirks and their own personalities. It was really well done. In terms of story, the story is pretty straightforward. I didn't play the game before this. This is actually my first attempt at a Shantae game, and it's basically, to my understanding, is whatever happened in the events of the first one. For whatever reason, Shantae, who is a genie, has lost all of her powers for whatever reason, and she ends up having to team up, who I can only presume is the villain from the first game, Risky Boots, to stop this pirate overlord from resurrecting. And it's a really interesting story, and I really enjoyed it, like I said, and the thing that carries it is the characters, because each one of them, they're great. They are really great. This game, if there was one highlight from it that I could really accentuate, it would be the characters. And the story's not bad either. Full disclosure, I haven't played the original Shantae game or the prior one before this. I've only played this one. This is my first attempt. And the story is basically Shantae, who is a magical genie, has, for whatever reason, lost all of her powers, and she ends up having to team up with who I can only assume was the previous villain from the last game, Risky Boots, to take down this pirate overlord who is trying to resurrect himself and essentially take over the world. It sounds a little bit basic, but it's actually pretty cool, and I like this whole teaming up with the villain thing. I always like it when games do that. I don't feel like games do it that much, but Shantae ends up having to team up with Risky, who obviously is a lot more complex than apparently people must have thought, because they really go into details about her on this game, and I really appreciate that. Like I said, the writing in this game is really good, and so are the characters, and therefore it makes the story that much stronger. And for all the praises I'm giving this game, there was one big drawback, and that's that I don't feel like it utilized the items to the full extent, the ones that you collect. For example, there's the scimitar that you just saw, where you dive down and you can break open the ground and attack enemies with. But there's also a special dash move that you acquire that allows you to jump really far and smash through obstacles. And while it uses this stuff really well, there are other things it doesn't. For example, the pirate's hat that you acquire allows you to sail in the air, and then you also get a cannon with a triple jump. Not a double jump, you get a triple jump in this game, and you shoot yourself out of a cannon. I mean, what's not to like about that? And it opens up all of these possibilities to make some extremely fun platforming, and it just doesn't quite do that. It does it at the end of the game, becomes a really challenging platforming contest essentially, but I wanted to see that throughout the game, man. I wanted more challenges, because the game shows that it can bring you a lot of challenge. Unfortunately, there were no bonus stages or anything like that to quite give you that challenge, which is sad, because the final area gives you that challenge, and I just kind of wish there was more of that, because then that game went from just being good to being great. And that honestly wraps up everything about this game, so let's give it a score. For those of you that don't know, I give games letter grades, A being the best thing ever, and F being a total failure. And Shantae and the Pirate's Curse, man, when you look back at it, despite the ridiculous jokes and the over-sexualized themes that kind of hit you over the head a little bit too much, even though they're trying to be subtle, this game's a great platformer, and there's so much to like. From the characters, to the combat, to the collectibles, it's pretty well done. I finished the whole thing in about 8 to 9 hours. It's priced at $20, but you know what? The price is right. For a $20 game, I'm pretty into it. I'm definitely into this game. So I give Shantae and the Pirate's Curse a B. It has definitely earned that. It is a good game. I do recommend you give it a try. As a matter of fact, I like this game so much that I'm going to be trying the next one. I have it right here on my Nintendo Switch. Can't wait to play it. And yeah, that kind of wraps it up for me. Alright guys, that concludes my review of Shantae and the Pirate's Curse. If you enjoyed this review, be sure to twerk that like button. And if you really enjoyed it, be sure to super twerk that subscribe button. And if you have a recommendation for what you would like me to review next, be sure to let me know. I am always open to suggestions. Thank you so much, and have a nice day. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'm gonna rub my booty up and grind up on this old man again, because he is a perv, and he likes it.